John Fredericks Radio Network, good to have you back. Bob McDonnell finally joining us now. The last Republican to win statewide so far since Bob McDonnell 2009. Democrats have won, 20 in a row, something like that, 13. There's no more Republican Party of Virginia. It's a beeper, an answering machine, and maybe a postal permit. And it's a complete disaster. McDonnell winning a stunning victory in 2009, getting, I think, over 60%, got 100% of the vote on Tangier Island with 200 for 200, and carried Fairfax by, I think, under 100 votes or something. Very, very, very close. And he's joining us now. Bob McDonnell, Governor, great to have you, man.
Hey, John, thanks. Appreciate it. I've been on in a while, and good to talk to your listeners.
Merry Christmas to you, your family. Hope you're doing
John.
Well.
Well, same to you. I'm glad we can still say that. Merry Christmas.
I know. It's so great. And happy holidays, happy Hanukkah to all of our listeners out there. Bob, we got a lot to talk about here in about 15 minutes, but I want to get to some of the analogies here between all these Trump investigations. Michael Flynn yesterday going bankrupt, basically saying that he had to plead out because he just couldn't pay lawyers. You kind of went through the same thing. Government go after you, right, Governor? They got unlimited resources. You were able to fight it and hang in there and eventually get exonerated by the Supreme Court of the United States. Is there an analogy here, Governor?
We have the best criminal justice system in the world. We got tremendous people in public service, both in uniform and on the lawyers. But they're not perfect, and sometimes they get it wrong. I thought in my case, after $28 million on a theory that had never been used before in legal circles, and 8.5 investigators for a couple of years, they were unanimously wrong by the Supreme Court, and the opinion and the language of the justices from the bench said as much. And so there are times that perhaps other motives get involved for why prosecutions are brought. But I think in the political context, we've got a tone, John, of vitriol and hyperpartisanship and sort of an ugliness on both sides of the equation that's really toxic for our country. I mean, we need to restore civility and not. We've got government by litigation and investigation. It's supposed to be government by legislation. And so I think there's a lot of reflection both sides of the aisle need to do about what kind of tone and what kind of spirit of cooperation are they bringing to the table. And it does spill over into the criminal justice system. I was delighted to see some reforms yesterday that I think are positive for the country in the prison context. But, there's more to do. But overall, you got good people in our criminal justice system. And we just have to recruit people that are going to call balls and strikes and not inject other motives into the system.
Governor McDonnell, let's get to Virginia. You won a stunning victory in 2009 on the platform Bob for Jobs. You carried Fairfax. It's almost unthinkable now that a Republican would ever carry Fairfax. You actually carried it. I remember one other thing about it. I mentioned earlier, you carried Tangier Island, I think 200 for 200, 100%. And
no, I actually lost 4 votes there, John. I think it was only 99%.
Oh, 90, is it 196 to 4, right? But listen, Governor, I mean, since then, and that was just a stunning victory. Since then, there's no Republican Party now in Virginia to speak of. They've lost, 13 statewide races in a row. Kirk Cox is the firewall. If he loses, they can't raise a dime. Thing is over. I mean, having been the last person to actually engineer a stunning coalition of victory, what do Republicans in Virginia, Governor McDonnell, have to do to maybe have a chance at getting a statewide victory again and rebuilding the party?
You've issued a clarion warning. I don't think it's quite that stark, but it could be in the very near future for a lot of reasons, demographics and some other things. So I guess, John, I spoke at the Republican Advance this weekend and kind of outlined a little bit of a strategy for how to do that. Listen, I was very, very blessed in 2009. We had great running mates. We had incredible enthusiasm. And, John, the curse, too, is part of it, and that is that the party in power in Washington and the presidency loses the governor's race in Virginia for every year for the last 48, except for the Cuccinelli-McAuliffe race. Mm-hmm. That has held true. People look at Washington and say, we don't like what's happening there, and we don't want that in Virginia. I mean, it's a constant phenomenon. So with the President Obama in the White House, I certainly had some advantages. But here's a couple things, John, that I've outlined for people. One, we need candidates that are happy warriors. Conservatives are always maligned by the other side untruthfully as the party that doesn't like women, that doesn't take care of children, and all these other things that are nonsense, but they sell it. The media supports it. And so we need people. Our tone has got to be much better. The happy warrior, confident in what we believe in. And secondly, explaining why conservatism works, that less government, lower taxes, a good safety net, an entrepreneurial code of statutes and regulations, why that's better for the United States, people of all stripes, colors, races, and creeds, and frankly, why socialism has failed everywhere it's been tried in the planet. If you look at the messages of the National Democrats today, that's exactly where they are, and it's never worked as an economic theory. Thirdly, I think we need to not always nominate the most electable conservative candidate. We've nominated some people, that just because of their tone and some of their baggage and some of their previous policies is just way out of line with where Virginians are. It's the independents, John, that still control. Republicans and Democrats generally will vote for their party candidate, but 37, 38%, and an increasing number of people say they're independents. That's where elections are won and lost. Most people don't have faith that either one of the major political parties can solve the problems of the day at the federal level, and so it spills down. Millennials over 50% now say they're independents, and we have to have a message to them. And I guess the final couple things that I would say, John, is we are projected to be a majority non-white nation in about 27 years. And the way that we message, the way we talk, the way we outreach to people of color is just not good. And we have to explain why our philosophy, which is not more free stuff and not more giveaways and not more government regulations to tilt the playing field for business and people generally, why that's not a winning strategy, but conservatism, which is lifting up all boats and giving everyone an opportunity to achieve the American dream, why that works better. And then there's other things. Obviously, we've got to do some party restructuring. Our voter registration efforts is not nearly as good in suburbia and other places as the Democrats have done. And so, it's myriad things, John, not one particular thing, but I am optimistic that a message of economic liberty and political liberty and religious liberty and more access to the American dream still is, for 240 years, that's what our country stood for, and that's what we need to be talking about.
We're with Governor Bob McDonnell, former governor of Virginia, Republican governor, exonerated by the Supreme Court unanimously. I think it was 8 or 9-0. Was it 8 or 9? I don't remember.
Well, it was 8. Unfortunately, Justice Scalia had passed away a few months before the decision.
8-0, and also the liberals delivered a blistering assessment of what went down here. So the governor completely exonerated. I want to get to a couple things before I get to the party and your future. Number one, you said that Republicans in Virginia are not doing a good job of messaging to non-white people who will be the majority in a 27-year period. Give me an example of that, Governor.
Well, for instance, I think that the tone of the way we talk and look, the tone in Washington is horrible in both parties. I like a lot of what President Trump is doing, but the name calling, the tweets that sometimes aren't accurate. I mean, and the tone of which he talks to people sometimes is just not one that's going to ingratiate people to our cause. So I think, again, we got to be the happy warrior. Secondly, you have to actually go and talk to people. There have been elections that I've seen where people just are focusing on, the base, and that's a losing strategy. I mean, we have to realize that it is an increasingly beautifully diverse Virginia and America. And one little thing that I did, when I was governor, we had like 35 different bumper stickers. one for every college. We had one in every one of the languages spoken in Virginia, and just little things like that said that we cared about those constituencies, but particularly, in the African American community, more economic opportunity, more ways to help minority businesses get capital, more of a level playing field with state procurement, and things of that nature are ones that begin to make a difference. My last year as governor, we did a couple things with prisoner reentry, with the restoration of rights, where we were able to build some great coalitions, across the political and racial lines in order to get some positive things done. And so there are myriad opportunities, John, to be able to do that. But when you look at the changing demography of America, we have to realize that we can't continue just to talk to the same echo chamber.
Well, David Ramadan tweets in and says that one example of what my question just was chain migration and ending that, which is one of the mainstays of President Trump's immigration reform. Ramadan says that's an example of where the messaging to non-white people might be off track with Republicans. Got a couple more minutes. We're going to get to your future in a second. Party restructuring. When you were there, you had, I believe, David Rexroad was the executive director, and Garen Shipley was your spokesperson. You were building an organization, but look, you were able to raise money. I mean, now they can't raise any money for the party. Bill Howe wouldn't give them a dime. They can't raise any money. The Democrats have 25 full-time people. They've got 3. There is no structure. We have 2 more questions. One is about rebuilding the party with no money to compete with the Democratic Party of Virginia machine that McAuliffe's constructed. What would be your vision for being able to do that?
Well, obviously, people invest in things that are credible, and I think our new chairman, Jack Wilson, who I met with a little bit over this weekend, has got some very good ideas. People seem this weekend to want to win again, and we're very receptive to some very direct internal critiques of what we needed to build. But listen, the people that have been traditional donors to me or to Mark Earley or Jerry Kilgore or Jim Gilmore, George Allen, they're still interested in investing and winning because they believe in the conservative ideas and the philosophy of government. So it really comes down to a matter of credibility, and I think this new chairman is the right guy for the right time.
Bob McDonnell exonerated by the Supreme Court last year, 8-0. You're clean, you're free, you beat him back, you did the right thing. Now, a lot of what you said makes sense. Here's my question about your political future. There's an open seat for Congress right now for the Republicans, for the Republican nomination. 2nd District, Scott Taylor getting beat by Elaine Luria. There's going to be a swing district with Trump on the ballot going into 2020. Can we see a possible Bob McDonnell candidacy for Congress?
No, I've been in public service 38 years, John. I'm incredibly blessed. That win back in 2009 really was, just an incredible team effort at the grassroots level to get that done. But, I am interested in some of the more, I'd just call it the issues that affect America generally. I mean, I think restoring federalism, restoring civility, and improving race relations to me are the issues that really, if we don't get right, can undermine our country. And so that's what I'm interested in. I'm not looking at any elected office in the future. We've got a lot of nice, really strong young people I know that have begun to talk about the 2nd District. And look, we will come back as we have before. People forget that from the Civil War to 1997. There was no Republican majority in the General Assembly of Virginia that was Republican. It was always the other party. And from Reconstruction until 1966, there was no Republican governor. So these things go in waves, John. But we've been pretty competitive. It's a purple state right now, and I just think we explain why our message of governing and our philosophy of how we handle people and freedom is just better than progressive socialism, and I think that's a winning message going forward. So I'm not going to be a candidate, but I'm looking forward to helping people that are.